Slava Isusu Christu. Glory be to Jesus Christ. Today I would like to share you the story about this little church here that we found in Lviv, formerly known as Zboisk, the territory. When the Redemptorists came to Ukraine, Metropolitan Cheptyrsky gave them a house and some property near Lviv in a little village called Zboisk, where they built onto the house, this larger house, they built a seminary onto it. We were there until the Second World War ended. Around 1946-47, the communists confiscated this property. It was turned into a military station, and it so remained. In 1991, when the church was set free again and Ukraine became independent, the government of the day was going to offer us back this property. However, buildings were built on it because of the military. It was in great ruins, and so the Redemptorists chose, instead of taking the property, to take one of the churches in Lviv, St. Joseph's. And this property was left abandoned. One year, as we were doing the research for Blessed Vasyl, our driver told us that he grew up in Zboisk and that he knew of that monastery of Redemptorists, the seminary, and that there were some caves in that property where he used to play as a little boy, and he wanted to show us those caves. He took us there, and there were these underground rooms, huge rooms that were used for storage for vegetables and so on. And we went down into them, and as we came back up, there was this old building not too far away, and went to look at it, and it was abandoned, a warehouse now for tractor tires and other tires, and it was in ruins, no floor, dirt on the ground, and the walls were all ruined. I'm looking at it and I say, I wonder if this wasn't a chapel. The way the front of this building looked like it could be an iconostas here. And we were talking that way, and we went outside, and in the grass next to the church over here was hidden, in the grass, a large metal cross. Finding that cross gave me assurance that this certainly was a church, and that cross was on this church, and the communists had pulled it down as they did for so many churches, and just had left it there. I brought that cross to the Redemptorists, began a campaign to perhaps restore this church, get it back. Bishop Vasyl's autobiography, tells us there that he was ordained in the church in Zboisk. I always assumed it was in the seminary chapel, somewhere in the seminary building. Perhaps it was in this outside chapel. It wasn't very large, but maybe that's where he was ordained. And the more research we did, the more we became convinced that this was the church where Blessed Vasyl was ordained, where many Redemptorists received their final vows, where others were ordained in this same chapel. And so it became very important for us to get it back. The Redemptorists attempted through the courts to get it back, and in the Lviv courts, judgment was for the Redemptorists, that it was our property. But when it was appealed to Kiev, judge in Kiev said, I know it's your property, but I rule for the other side, which was the mafia. We were very disappointed, but not totally discouraged. The following year, we told one of our young priests, Father Ivan Kolodi, about this property. He came with us, looked at it, and he found who owned this property and called that person. And I was willing to pay up to $20,000 for this property as a provincial. But then the owner, Alexander was his name, said, well, I will give it to you in exchange for an apartment in Lviv. And in those days, it was running around $84,000, which was way beyond my budget. Father Ivan did more research. and found that there was not one owner but 3 owners. And the suspicion that all 3 would ask for 3 apartments that would make it into the hundreds of thousands. And then when he discovered more that this person was from the mafia, he became scared for his family. He was a married priest. And so with that finished. That was in the fall of 2010. That next spring, in February 2011, this news got to Russia, and a group of sisters who are heretical sisters who were thrown out by the church, not acknowledged by the church as a true order, who condemns the Pope and the patriarchs and all our bishops. They got money to buy this property, or were given that property. And they entered the church and they renovated it, and they knew that Blessed Vasyl and others were ordained in that church, and they took that church over and they renovated it. And so it is to this very day in the hands of this illegal, invalid order of sisters who are against the church. Every week prior to the war, the Ukrainian Catholic Church would stand outside the church asking God that it come back to us. And I'm praying personally with the war in Ukraine and the war against Russia, and since this was Russian bought, we can say that perhaps those sisters who are associated with the Russian Orthodox Church also, maybe they will leave this territory, have it back in our Ukrainian Catholic Church where we can properly decorate it and have it a place of honor for Blessed Vasyl, who was ordained in this church. I ask you for those prayers that one day this church comes back into the hands of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. Slava Isusu Christu. Glory be to Jesus Christ.